Welcome to Inside Steelers Nation on SNR. I'm Randy Slack with Dale Lolley. Matt Williamson will coming up later in the show. We will hear from Cam Hayward, All-Pro Cam Hayward, well-deserved. You know, I don't know if you guys got into that much at the end of the week last week, but
not at all. I don't think.
You know, it's interesting. You know, we talked about how great of a season Cam had, and for him, unfortunately, to not make the Pro Bowl because he's in with all the edge rushers and those guys. You know, I mean, he had 12 sacks, but for those guys who that's all their job is,
he's a quote defensive end, and
right. And for him,
help his cause.
For him to be able to be a first team all pro, you know, I think it's a testament to him, and I think it's definitely a well deserved honor for Cam Hayward.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people, and I guess myself included, pay a lot of attention when the Pro Bowl rosters come out, and then I didn't even see the All Pro rosters, you know, so I didn't even know that until just now. It's great. I mean, I think he is deserving. Yeah,
and they do the All Pro rosters differently than how they do the Pro Bowl rosters.
There's not like three different groups.
They broke down the defensive linemen into edge rushers and interior linemen.
So he's an interior.
He made it as an interior lineman.
Okay.
Nice. So it's different than the Pro Bowl, which is defensive ends and defensive tackles.
Mm-hmm. He's neither.
Yeah, and same with Calais Campbell, really.
Right.
Now Calais Campbell made the team as a defensive end. But he plays both. When you watch the game this weekend, you see him in their nickel defense. He'll bump inside.
But I mean, like Cam never lines on the outside shoulder of the tackle.
No,
Campbell
he's not
does
at
times.
Yeah,
you know, right.
And the big thing about the All-Pro team is there's only one.
Right.
Yeah, now they'll do a first team All-Pro, second team All-Pro.
Okay.
But it's not like the Pro Bowl where they'll pick the original Pro Bowl and 25 guys will back out, and then they'll put 25 other guys in there, and those guys can call themselves Pro Bowlers as well.
Right. And Andy Dalton
goes.
And
you know, David Garrard's a Pro Bowl quarterback. Next thing you know, that's how the Pro Bowl to me is a waste of time and a waste of effort, and it's a waste of resources for the NFL. You're not going to get the best players. You're not getting the players because of when they have the game. You're not getting the players from either conference championship game.
Or Super Bowl.
Or the Super Bowl winners. Or Super Bowl teams. Those are your top...
Kind of diluted.
Yeah, your top four teams aren't sending anybody to the Pro Bowl. That kind of, it makes it a meaningless game.
I haven't watched a snap of it in a very long time, but my 11-year-old is getting to the point now where he's like, I want to watch that skills competition. I might watch a skills competition.
That's a little different.
Yeah. Like they shouldn't even have the game.
That's like the NFL Strongest Man competitions that they used to have, stuff like that. That our friend Craig Wolfley competed in. You know, those things are different. Those are non-football type things where you're doing things.
They're playing dodgeball and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. He's like, I want to see.
Yeah, you want to see those athletes do those kind of things. You want to see those guys lift, a car, stuff like that,
or a trolley or something. Yeah.
But the Pro Bowl itself, the game. It's not really football. It's flag football.
And plus, you still can get hurt. Eifert got injured. And
I remember Dermontti Dawson pulled his hamstring in the Pro Bowl one year. And it bothered him into the next season.
We had this conversation with Wolf a week or two ago, and he's like, well, back in the day, you weren't making very much, and winner got $10,000. We tried as hard as we absolutely could. I mean, anybody went to the Pro Bowl, took it, and you went, and you tried to win, and it was a lot different environment. Now it's
$10,000 doesn't even pay for your trip.
Right.
You got to take your posse with you, and if you're
one night out,
you're the running back, you're taking the entire offensive line with you, and that kind of stuff. And it's not the same.
And it's in Orlando,
right, instead of Hawaii too.
Right.
Good point. Just off the top of my head, was Aaron Donald the other interior?
Yes.
He better be. I think he's the best defense player in the league. Any other Steelers make the team?
Yeah, actually, Bell, not Roethlisberger. Bell, Brown was the only unanimous pick in the league.
DeCastro?
And DeCastro made
Good.
it, yeah.
Okay, those are the guys that should have.
Yeah.
While we're talking about non-Steelers, Jaguars playoff stuff, I didn't catch the game last night.
Oh, wow. It was a good one.
You guys watched the national title game. It wasn't...
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you for having to get up and do a morning show.
Well, I'll be honest with you. If the game was on at 6 o'clock, I wouldn't have watched it.
Really?
I like seeing college football just to see who can maybe affect the NFL. I'm more of an NFL guy. I know my mom and dad don't watch the NFL. They watch college football every Saturday. They like watching the amateurs. I like watching the professionals.
I prefer it as well.
Well, what's it count then if you're watching Ohio State?
Somewhere between.
Don't ask my dad that question.
I'm basically the same way. If I was a single dude, I'd watch college football all Saturday long. But I give Saturdays up basically. This time of year, I start to really focus in on the draft, and I certainly watch the playoffs and the national title game. It was an awesome game, though. And I use the analogy. It was a lot like the Super Bowl. The Georgia was Atlanta, and Belichick and Saban are like clones, and the big bad wolf just wouldn't go away, and finally won in the end. And they put a freshman in at halftime to take over the quarterback situation, and so much NFL talent out there. A couple guys I was watching through Steelers lenses, like he would be a decent linebacker or safety or running back. There's some guys there that would really help the team.
There's some guys there that they're not going to have a chance to draft.
The Georgia linebacker,
no.
But the Evans kid I was looking at Bama is a good-looking linebacker, or maybe Sony Michel, kind of perked my interest. But there's a handful of them. A lot of talent, obviously, as you would imagine.
Sure.
SEC can.
I did hear that apparently every year that Nick Saban wins the national title, I guess in the recent years,
another angel gets his wings.
Yes, and Bill Belichick loses.
Oh, really?
They don't win the same year.
Well, Satan only hands them out to one at a time.
Right.
Part of the agreement when the three of them got together. Okay, you get one, and you get the other, and you guys got to share.
It was up until I think maybe in the last 4 or 5 years. Every year the Kentucky Wildcats won the Final Four. The Yankees won the World Series the same year. It happened every time until like 2000, whenever the Kentucky Wildcats won their last one.
That's crazy.
Every time.
Saban, though, heard two things on the way in here. In the last 9 years, he's won the national title more than he's not. He's won 5 of the last 9 years and lost to a great Ohio State team, which you probably remember. Mm-hmm. Jameis's team, Cam Newton's team, and then Deshaun Watson's team last year. And then the other thing, talk about being able, I was in recruiting for basically 4 years. If he walks into your home as a high school recruit and sits down with you and says, every kid that I've recruited that hasn't left the program has won a national title.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy.
And like 75% of them have played in the NFL.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's something ridiculous like that.
Yeah. And by the way, if you start for him, you'll be a first-round pick. But is he the GOAT? I don't know enough about college football, but he's got to be in the conversation for the best ever.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the recruiting stuff, like, does he really have to do anything recruiting-wise? Is that now Notre Dame? You know what I mean?
See, I think you're probably right, but that's good, because he earned it.
Yeah,
that every 5-star recruit's beating down his door, and he just picks which ones he wants. I mean, I think there's some truth to that for sure.
So, I mean,
any kid he wants in Alabama.
I would, I look back at Saban at like Michigan State when he didn't have the talent that everybody else did. He won the national championships at Michigan State.
No, but he got promoted. I mean, he must have done something well.
Yeah,
he moved up in the world.
So
there.
Same thing with like Urban Meyer. I mean, he came up there. And so I don't know that you can compare eras necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it. Paterno won a bazillion games.
Yeah, Bear Bryant was Bear Bryant and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, that's anytime you start comparing different eras, it's really difficult to look at them. The rules are different. The recruiting rules are different. A
lot more cheating back then.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't mean that cheating doesn't go on now. I mean,
no, but I think there's a lot less, at least in my experience.
To a degree, and then you see the thing come out, over the summer, which has kind of gotten swept under the carpet over the college basketball stuff with all the assistant coaches getting money and stuff. And it was a big story for about a week and a half, and then all of a sudden just went away. and it's kind of interesting that it never touched college football, because you can't tell me that if it was going on in college basketball, it wasn't also going on in football.
Something similar. Yeah.
That North Carolina stuff hit the football program a little bit, because I think Butch Davis ended up having to leave there. But yeah, for the most part, it really didn't even affect college basketball that much, other than Rick Pitino.
I wouldn't know,
man. But anyway, there is an actual football game that the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing this weekend, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, a team that the team wanted to play, but now Mike Tomlin's saying that Ben Roethlisberger's not looking for revenge, which I find to be maybe a little bit of
that's what you say.
No billboard material.
Knowing Ben Roethlisberger and having been around him the last 15 years, I can tell you that he is as competitive as anybody. And, when he made the statement after the game that maybe I just don't have it anymore, I mean, that was more in defiance than anything because he knew what the critics were going to say about the 5-interception game. I guarantee you that's something that he's focused on and been focused on basically since that game happened. You know, I had a 5-interception game. I had a 5-interception game. I can't. I got to play better than that, and you know he has played better than that basically since that game.
And I think you made a point yesterday, something along the lines of not that they would ever be flat for a home playoff game, but it means a little more than if Tennessee were coming here or Buffalo or you know what I mean, like because of how things went the first time around. And maybe I'm looking through it through black and gold colored glasses, but I mean I feel like Jacksonville's win might not help them on Sunday. You know, their first appearance might end up being a detriment in the long run as the Steelers put 30 on them, you know, and don't let up
and
at
you hear
all.
everybody talking about this defense being one of the greatest of all time. It's not even one of the greatest of this decade.
No.
They're, you know, you look at the Seattle defense 2012, 2013, better numbers in this defense. The Steelers of 2010, 2011, better numbers in this defense. It's not, you know, people the Denver Broncos have better numbers than this defense. Now, this defense has a good pass defense, but it's not overwhelmingly better than those defenses. And, oh, by the way, this defense gives up 120 yards rushing a game. Those defenses shut people down on both sides or both ways.
As I've done more homework since we got together yesterday and watched a little more and read a little more, the less impressed I am with their defense. It's still great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're not saying it's not great. But that Bills game, there was a lot of guys running free, a lot of them deep. Taylor either missed them or didn't throw it. And, Randy, if you get a chance, just pull up the last – I think it's since week 12. Their rush defense – I mean, we can get to it next segment, but their rush defense over – like they traded for Darius, I think, in like week 7 or 8. And then for a month there, nobody was running on him. And so everyone's thinking, boy, the run defense is fixed now. It's not at all. I mean, they've been getting gashed the last month or so. I would be very concerned if I were the Jags.
We'll get into that, and I have a question about Ben Roethlisberger coming up next on Inside Steelers Nation on SNR. Welcome back to Inside Steelers Nation on SNR. Now my mic's on. I'm Randy Syke with Matt Williamson and Dale Lolley. Dale, we talked before the break, and, you know, Ben isn't publicly saying that this is a revenge game, but, you know, you said he's a competitor.
We kind of did.
He wants to go out there. He wants to go out there, and he wants to have a good game. He wants to win. Is Ben going to be happy if he goes 16 for 21, 160 yards and a touchdown?
Hands off a lot.
Do they win?
Yeah.
In your scenario, then yes, he'll be happy.
But you don't think that he's going to want to, you know, try to throw the ball more?
No. And that was part of the problem in the first game is that he did throw it 55 times. And this is one of the misnomers out there that it's a false narrative that Todd Haley was calling all these pass plays in that game. They were calling had run plays called on a lot of those situations, but Jacksonville came up to the line of scrimmage with one high safety and the pressing on the corners and so Roethlisberger said, "Oh, I see that situation. I got Antonio Brown on the outside 1-on-1. I'm throwing the ball." So he checks out of the run play and throws the ball and it didn't work out. I mean, that's a lot, as you said, early in the season, he was taking the cheese a lot.
Yeah, right.
That's
what Jacksonville wanted.
Think about the game plan against Minnesota. You saw him chucking the ball deep 3 straight times on one situation. They went 3 and out, and he three incompletions, chucking the ball deep every time because Minnesota's lining up and they think their cornerbacks are better than your receivers, and sometimes they are. And
if you didn't have Lev Bell, they might not have played that way.
Right.
But you try to take something away.
But run the football. Don't be afraid to take a 3-yard gain in a situation. 2 3-yard gains, you're in 3rd and 4. That's certainly better than 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 8 or whatever.
Or an interception.
Or an interception.
Sack,
yeah.
Right. 100% agree. And to take it a step further, I think the Steelers are a lot harder to defend now than they were, week 4 or whatever that was. Just because Ben's playing so much better. I think the passing game's so much better that if they do take that strategy, I'm still with you. Don't take the cheese, hand it to Lev. But I trust Ben now to make the throws,
right.
and than I did then, or Juju to make a play, or Bryant, or McDonald, or all those guys. So I think no matter how you choose to defend the Steelers right now, there's never really going to be a right answer, even though their personnel is great.
Their offense is now what we thought it was going to be all season.
This is
how do you defend this? The interesting thing is that Martavis Bryant finished with 50 catches this year.
Wow, I would have guessed the under.
You know how many catches he had in 2015?
Probably in the same neighborhood.
50.
Okay.
Now it's been a different 50. We haven't seen the over-the-top stuff as consistently.
It's on SportsCenter every time.
But
you're right.
Juju Smith-Schuster is kind of emerged in that is that guy. I think in the last 9 games or last 7 games, he has like 45 catches for like 600 and some yards. He's emerged. You know, if you extrapolated that over the course of, he's a number 1 receiver on a lot of teams. The way he's played this year, so they've got, 2 number 1s, a really good number 2. In certain situations, you've got Le'Veon Bell coming out of the backfield, and oh, by the way, you got Vance McDonald. You talked about Buffalo missing O'Leary on a lot of those situations. Was the guy that they were missing in those situations because they had the right matchup there. Roethlisberger's not going to miss those throws.
No, and like I said, I mean, I'm much more comfortable with Ben throwing more, quote, taking the cheese. But then you can look at the other flip side, too, and say, even if you don't, punting's fine because these guys aren't going to score on you.
Yeah, they're 3 offensive scoring drives in that game against the Steelers when they scored 16 offensive points. Was a 48-yard drive off a short field. They had a 61-yard field goal drive or 61-yard touchdown drive and a 69-yard field goal drive. That was it. They didn't, they weren't up and down the field like everybody, And the touchdown at the end of the game was a 98-yard drive, but 90 of it came on one play. It's not like Jacksonville was just running up and down the field on the Steelers in the game. They barely got over 300 yards of offense in that game.
They had incredible field position much of the time.
Yeah.
And, so Blake Bortles now has beaten the Steelers in Pittsburgh and won a playoff game, not throwing for 100 yards in either one.
He's 6-24 in his career on the road, and he was 4-4 this year.
He was good this year,
yeah.
Right? Yeah,
good. He was okay this year. He's 4-4.
Yeah, right.
But he's 6-24 in his career in road games.
That's 2-20 before this year.
Yeah, that's not good.
Ouch.
Hey Dale.
He stinks.
I look. I'm not going to talk about Blake, but I am going to try to. I just want to. I have concerns about this game. Okay.
All right, go ahead, live in your fears.
I have fewer concerns today than I did yesterday.
All right, Ben hasn't thrown a ball in almost 3 weeks.
He's been throwing the ball every day. I've seen it.
He hasn't played in a game. He hasn't played in a professional football game in nearly 3 weeks since Christmas.
I don't think that matters.
The last time he played in the divisional round game where he sat out week 17, obviously had the bye week in the wild card round, was against the Jags in 2007. Lost.
I think he got hurt against Cleveland though that game. He played.
Wasn't there an injury concern?
Yeah, he had that was when he had the spinal concussion.
And just look.
So he did not practice in between there. This time around is different. He has been practicing. It's not like he was hurt and is coming back. He has been practicing the entire time. I think that's the huge difference here. I don't think there's going to be a rust factor.
You don't think there's going to be a rust factor?
No.
Collectively, I didn't like at all how the team came off the bye. But that was in Indy in the middle of the season, not a playoff game at Heinz Field. In terms of just emotions and getting up for it and all that.
Tom Brady played in Week 17.
He did. Didn't this past week.
But he played in Week 17.
Yeah.
He hasn't had 3 weeks off. Ben's had a lot of time off.
I hear you. But he hasn't been sitting around doing nothing. I don't know. I'd be shocked if they come out flat.
I'm my concern, look, I see this 2 different ways. I see this could be like the Miami game last year, where I think the Steelers thought, we're a better team. They got us that day, but we're going to get them when we play them in the playoffs. They got them in the playoffs, and they did exactly what they thought they could do.
I think you start wrapping your mind around that scenario more so than what's going to the other one that you're about to say.
But then if you're at the same time, you got a team they're looking ahead to New England, the inevitable matchup to New England.
There's no looking ahead. This is a team that beat them in a regular season. They are not overlooking the Jacksonville Jaguars
at all.
It's a playoff game.
You don't
it's
think
a playoff
I don't
game.
think so.
No. This is a very mature football team. They have not been distracted by anything. You look at everything that's happened this season, starting with the, Roethlisberger talking about retirement, and then Dan Rooney dying in the offseason. There have been numerous things that should have derailed this team. The only one that's really affected it has been the Chicago situation, and that was something that happened, that night, the night before the game.
Kind of a league-wide thing, too.
Yeah, and you saw a crazy weekend all over the league, crazy results that weekend. So they're not going to overlook this team. Not after, had they gone down to Jacksonville and lost 17-16 or something like that, okay, maybe they take this one a little lightly. Not in this situation. This is a team that beat them 30-9. This is they're reading all this stuff, talking about how, and I keep saying how Jacksonville dominated that game. They must have watched a different game than what I watched. I saw a team turn the ball over 5 times, 2 of which were returned for touchdowns. This was a 9-7 game, Steelers, midway through the third quarter. This was not any kind of domination.
Yeah. What about that drive at the start of the fourth quarter where the Jags had the ball at their own 4
and they
held the ball for 9 minutes?
It was a good
literally
drive.
Just running the whole
time. It was a good drive.
That, to me, was
how are they going to stop them?
Best thing that Jacksonville did that whole game.
Yeah.
And
that was one drive out of 9 that they had, or 10 that they had in the game.
And that won them the game.
No, the 5 picks won them the game.
That sealed it.
The 5 picks won them the game.
I would also say Fournette was a better player then than now. He's not making a lot of yardage on his own. A lot of the big runs he's had, I'd mentioned how over the last couple of weeks that they haven't ran the ball nearly as well. He's had very few big runs. I think he had like a 10-yard run against Buffalo, but it was totally unblocked, and it was just a straight-ahead plowing the guy in front of you. He's not making people miss.
Yeah,
like
when you watched him early in the year, he was quick to the line of scrimmage. He was, in fact, I remember writing at the time he was the fastest guy from the point of handoff to the line of scrimmage in the league at that point. There are metrics that measure that stuff. That's not the case anymore.
No, and I don't like his lateral agility right now. I don't think there's much make you miss. And as big and strong and fast as you are, that's great, but you're not going to get big lanes and just run fast in a straight line.
No.
And it just doesn't work that way in the league. And their blocking really isn't all that great either. I like their center, Linder, a lot, but the Robinson, the left tackle, has a chance to be a pretty good player, but their line needs a lot of work. I mean, I think they're really at a disadvantage in the trenches.
That dive for the touchdown was pretty sweet. I forgot all about that. When he jumped from like the 4-yard line.
He tried to do that against Buffalo too, and Lorenzo Alexander just like snatched him out of the air. That was it looked like somebody catching their little brother,
right.
Yanking him, and not only caught him but yanked him backwards in the air.
Right.
Yeah.
More to come, including Matt. You came up with some ratings for the 8 playoff teams. I'd like to go over some of this stuff, and of course we'll hear from Cam Hayward and more next on Inside Steelers Nation on SNR.